to my channel. You know who I am, I'm Catherine with a K, and today's video is in aid of World Mental Health Day. Now, World Mental Health Day was on the 10th of October, but unfortunately due to scheduling, working, not feeling a bit under the weather, unfortunately I wasn't able to do this video and get it out on time, but you know what? It's here now, and it's all in aid of World Mental Health Day. Now, a couple of months ago when I first started my channel, I did do a video called It's Okay to Not Be Okay, My Mental Health Journey. If you haven't seen that yet, I can certainly link it in the card above and you can watch it at your leisure. Hopefully you'll learn something from it and take something from it. And I also did a video while I was in London called My 10 Top Tips to Help with Stress and Anxiety, and again I will link it and you can watch it and hopefully you might pick up some tips, you never know. Worth a try. Today's video is going to be about my process through my recovery from getting my diagnosis to where I am now. And I've had a few different things that I've tried and tested, and some of it's worked, some of it hasn't, but unfortunately I think, like with people who have a chronic illness or a physical disability, sometimes it is all in trial and error. So I'm going to start at the beginning. Now, you guys know from my first video that I've been struggling with my mental health from being very, very young, but not getting the diagnosis till I was 26. So when I was 26, the first thing that I did was my GP, when I went to speak to him, did put me on medication. Since then it has changed. And for a while, yes, it did work. At the time I was in a relationship with somebody, so I did have him to talk to sometimes, and I also tried to speak to my family when I felt comfortable. But as that relationship ended, obviously my mood and my anxiety and my depression did deepen, and it was like that for a few years. So they did change my medication slightly from time to time, but also I was on the similar medication for the chronic illnesses that I do have. I suffer with severe migraines and chronic IBS, so it was to help control that. You see, the thing is, mental health and physical health are so linked, so intertwined with each other. The physical health can affect the mental health and the mental health can affect the physical health. So that was what I was battling. Now, 4 years later, when I turned 31, I just moved out, and again, unfortunately, my depression had deepened quite a bit. And on my birthday, on my 31st birthday, I was in bed and I didn't want to get out of bed. I think I stayed in bed till about 2 o'clock that day and then opened my cards. But I went to see the doctor, and again he did change my medication, and so it's been changed quite a few times over that 4-year span. And during that time I was referred to the Leeds Mental Health Trust, and I had a phone call with, I can't remember who it was, I think it was somebody in the call centre who did a quick assessment and made another referral to see what kind of therapy would benefit me at that time. And I had counselling, just normal counselling, with a therapist. Now, how does the NHS define counselling? So I met a lovely lady. Obviously, I won't give out names. Plus, I can't remember. Anyway. And this lasted for about 12 weeks. because of obviously timing and funding, unfortunately the mental health services are so underfunded, it is criminal. But anyway, I had 12 weeks and I would go on the same day, same time, every single week. And it really did help. I felt very comfortable to open up to my therapist, because she's trained in mental health, she has experience, she's taught to others, and it really gave me an opportunity to open up. Even though I was speaking to family and friends, sometimes it is a lot easier to talk to somebody that you don't know whose objective is to help make you well, and not just because that's what they're paid to do, but that's what they want to do. And she can give me tips and she can give me advice that perhaps nobody else can, because it's part of her profession. So I did that for 12 weeks and I did feel a lot better. But unfortunately, again, as time went on, I sank further down. And it was this actually on my 31st birthday when I did go and see my GP, and he changed my medicines. He said, you can self-refer again to the Leeds mental health team, perhaps you need something a little different. So I rang up, and again I had a telephone assessment by somebody, and they recommended CBT. Now, what is CBT? CBT is a talking therapy that can help you manage your problems by changing the way you think and behave. It is most common to treat anxiety and depression, but it can be useful for other mental and physical health problems. Unfortunately, I had to wait on a waiting list for a year before I could finally get this service. Like I said earlier, the mental health department and the services, the hospitals, are so underfunded. You have to wait a long time for this, and unfortunately things can happen. I mean, we do have hotlines and we do have charity services, thank heavens for them, but they shouldn't have to be picking up the slack because the government can't fund the NHS properly. But that's a whole nother video, so I think I'll leave it there. So at the time I was waiting for CBT, that is when I met Paul, and I was able to open up to him about it, and he was so loving and supportive. I was frightened that I would scare him away, because you just don't know how people will react to when you tell them that, unfortunately, there are problems with your mental health. But he didn't think, it didn't bother him, and he was very supportive. And luckily at that time, a couple of months later, as we were settling into our relationship, I was finally able to have my first appointment. I met a really nice guy. He was very friendly, he had a really nice sense of humour, he was very approachable, I felt very comfortable with him. And I was at CBT for a lot longer than counselling. I was there for 20 weeks. And with CBT, not only is it like a counselling session, I was able to open up to him and kind of just feel free just to talk. But we discussed tips and techniques about how to calm my anxieties down to a point where I was able to relax and look at things a different way. But my major problem was being able to sleep. And that's when, like in my last mental health video I did about when I did my 10 top tips, I did talk about meditation, and that was the type of medication, similar letters, meditation. It was that kind of style that he taught me. He also took me through other things as well, and that was really helpful. And I was able to take that home and practice, and he gave me homework to do, you know, like listing things like my top 5 best qualities. Again, looking at myself, not just the world around me differently, but looking at myself differently. And that was really, really good, and that has helped me. Up to now, I still use some of these techniques. And also since then, again, my medication has changed, because my migraines have become a lot worse, and I was in hospital I was in A&E 4 times in the last year and a half, and I was admitted into hospital from A&E 3 times, my last one being in May, a couple of months before I started this video. So again, I had to go to a neurologist, and they had to take all of my conditions into consideration and then putting me on a new set of medication, which so far has worked really, really well. I do get the odd migraine and IBS attack, but in comparison, nowhere near as bad as I ever was, apart from that time in May, but I'm going to have a few bad times. So the medication that I'm on now, and I do feel happy to share this with you, because I talked to you in one of my videos about pill shaming. You should never pill shame somebody. It's no different taking medications for your mental health as it is for taking medication for a chronic or a physical illness. So my first medication is amitriptyline, and I take this for all 3 of my conditions. I take 30 milligrams at night, and that helps with not just depression and anxiety, but it also helps with, if you, like me, if you suffer with severe pain. And also I take, now this is the one I have problems pronouncing, Paul's a lot better at this than me, venlafaxine. I'm going to go for venlafaxine, and I take 2 of these again on the night time, because with these 2 combined it can make you quite drowsy, so I tend to take this before I go to bed. Sometimes I take it on the morning because I do work night shifts, and they can make you a little bit sleepy, so they always say, like, don't drive trips, you know, after taking these. And I also take Porfavol, which is a beta blocker, and I probably am not pronouncing that correctly, but that's part of my dyslexia. So yeah, I'm on those medications, and obviously I take pain relief as well, Buscopan, if I'm having a really bad attack. And that's part of that is my everyday life. I'm probably going to be on this medication for the rest of my life. But you know what? That's fine. Right now it's working, and that's the main thing. Along with the therapy that I've had in the past, I am I'm always in contact with my GP. I have a review every 6 months, just to make sure that I am on the right medication, that I'm on the right dosage, and also they keep in touch with me regarding my migraines and my IBS. And I have love and support from family, friends. I have Paul, I have my kittens. Come and say hello. Come and say hello. Are you good? Do you help me when I get stressed? Yes, she does. Good girl. Good girl. That was Leo. Good boy. Good boy. Nobody will know the difference. I'm in a much better place, physically, mentally, than I was when I was 26, when I was 30, when I was 31, and that is thanks to the new medication that I'm on, with the therapy that I've had with my friends and family, and Paul, of course. They've all made it so that I'm able to get to the point where I'm at. I don't believe I will ever fully be normal. I believe I will always have these issues, but I have ways and means now to manage it, and if I do have a bad time, I can use the techniques that I've learnt. I've got people to talk to, whether that be my loved ones, professionals, or my cats. They're great to talk to. They don't talk back. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope that you've taken something from it, especially if you yourself have been struggling with mental illness, or if you know somebody that's struggling with mental illness. There are websites and there are charities out there that offer a variety of different services to help, but most importantly, speak to your GP. That is my biggest advice that I can give you, and talk to your loved ones if you feel happy to. I will see you next time. I'm doing a new review of the Royal Ballets back on stage now that they have done their first show since lockdown 7 months ago, so I look forward to that, and I shall see you then. Bye!